this clean, squeaky clean image kind of thing, and he's the golden boy kind of thing, and he was expected to win kind of something. And I thought, in my opinion, I just think the pressure got to him, and he just started wilding out.
Uh, it's tricky, man. Um, AJ has been advised to. He's been advised to put on a certain persona.
Yes.
Yeah, so AJ's real name, his name's Antony Joshua, but his African name is Obafemi. Yeah, in school, he was called Obafemi. So if you went to school with AJ, you would know him as Femi, which is short for Obafemi, which is the name
Okay.
that his family call him, his friends, everyone who's known him up until he became what he is today. They
See.
know him as Femi. All right, now, once he went pro, and this happens, once you're in the Britain Olympic team,
Yeah, yeah.
they map out, especially in boxing, or there's other sports, but definitely boxing. They map out a commercial route for you.
Mm.
This route was mapped out for AJ a long time. So in 2012, if you go back, AJ was sold as this big friendly giant, a BFG,
Exactly.
and that's how they sell black heavyweights in the UK. Name me a black
Bruno.
heavyweight. Bruno, AJ. Look at the one. Look at Daniel Dubois,
Yeah.
Adelaide. That Adelaide guy who's on BT Sport now. You don't find much vicious British black heavyweights. You don't find that because Britain wouldn't buy into that type of heavyweight.
Nah.
All right. So AJ was advised to move like that, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So
Makes
we didn't know
sense.
nothing about Femi. We didn't know nothing about Femi. We knew about Antony Joshua. We didn't know nothing about that he lived in Nigeria and all this stuff. We didn't know none of that. All we seen is this big black man
Yeah.
who smiles.
Yeah, yeah.
That's it. And that's how he was sold. Now, was it a good idea? Of course, it's a good idea because we're in the UK and commercially, this is about money.
Mm-hmm.
So for years, Antony Joshua was this. That's his tagline: "Stay humble." Do you know what I mean? The way how he moves, the things that he says, but that only works when you're at the top of the sport and you're winning nonstop.
Yeah.
When you start to lose, and Fury's come along, he was actually hated before he, you know, came back and overcome adversity to become the heavyweight champion of the world again. He was
Yes.
hated by Britain
Of
because
course. We did we
what
did
did the sign
broadcasts
say?
about that there.
And we done many stuff on that. And when you really check out back in them days, what did the sign say? No blacks, no dogs, no Irish.
Mm-hmm.
Tyson Fury is from the traveling community, which a large percent of the traveling community are Irish.
Mm-hmm.
So the UK didn't really buy into Tyson like that. AJ now, since the Black Lives Matter stuff and a few other things, has had to find himself explaining things that he said
Yeah.
or explaining things that he's done.
Mm.
I just believe that the pressure got to him now.
Yeah.
So much, so much. Andy Ruiz is not a disciplined heavyweight. So once he beat AJ, he wasn't going to beat him again. And I always knew it would be a problem when somebody was able to kill that rematch curse, that rematch clause curse. That always happens in any sport. When you try and stack the odds in your favor, which is what,
Yes.
let's be real, this is what AJ does,
Yeah.
and most matchroom fighters do. A man has to beat you twice
Mm-hmm.
to really become the champion. You can't beat him and then move on,
Yeah.
even if you're a mandatory. So Britain put all this pressure on AJ. He's in every advert. He's being sold as this. They don't know what to do if he loses. That wasn't even an option.
No.
He lost and he just didn't know what to do. And the pressure boss, that they say the pressure bust pipes and the
Yes.
pressure bust. And you see what happened? My man couldn't hold it. He's jumped back. He's come out the ring.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? He's jumped back in the ring. He started going off on, but this is what happens when you have yes men around you and you
Yes.
don't have real people around you. Because if I was in that camp and I seen him go back into the ring on that vibe, I'd have been like, yo, maybe you shouldn't speak or don't speak or held
Eh,
him back.
And that's the
But
first thing that should have been like, yo, don't say nothing. The way I can see that look in your eye, brother. Don't go back out there, man. Let's just go back and let's just, decompress kind of thing.
exactly. But he ain't got that. So that's what happened. That's why his head went. And
But
it
you,
happens.
but
It
Mark,
happens.
you see how the media's like, some of the first things I was seeing before I actually watched the replay of the fight was people saying, "Oh, it's disgusting what AJ's doing. He's rude, he was disrespectful and all that." And to a point, I can understand that he's come in and interrupted the champion speaking first. That's disrespectful. But in regards to what he said, he didn't say nothing disrespectful to my youth, from what I could hear.
No, he didn't.
He was
The reason
venting.
why they were vexed with him is because his attitude, which to me and you, we don't see no problem with that because he didn't actually offend anybody personally,
Mm,
but his attitude around the loss,
yeah,
like you said, he interrupted the champ, he threw the belts, he swore in Saudi Arabia. You know what happens to people who swear in Saudi Arabia?
isn't that's jail time, in it?
It's a very serious. It's a serious thing. My man swore on a mic in a public place in Saudi Arabia. He threw the belts. He interrupted the champion. He went off on a tangent, which I understand
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
What I didn't like is how he dealt with his dad publicly and how he dealt with another elder man publicly as well.
I would
Don't
push
know
him,
if you've seen those videos.
and he pushed him out the way.
An elder man had said to him, there was a man who was from the States with his wife. And when I say elder, I'm talking mid 50s. And he said to AJ, way to keep it professional. But I've never really understood when Americans say that, like way to go or way to do
Yeah,
this or
yeah,
way to do.
yeah, yeah,
I don't
yeah.
understand it. And clearly he didn't either because my man said, way to keep it professional. And my man just switched. Who the F you talking to? Who
Oh,
you talking to?
I ain't
And
saying
they had
that.
to hold him back. They had to
What?
hold him back. Yeah, man. And that's what I didn't like. So when I say he lost his head, that's what I'm talking about. Not so much the stuff on stage,
Yeah.
but he lost his head. But he's had a beautiful run, and there's a lot more money on the table. So
Mm.
I don't understand why he's losing his head, to be honest. Because what did you think you were going to finish your career undefeated, or that some? And it's like I said to you before, Mayweather brought all that in, like having name me one great who hasn't lost.
This is it. It's part of the sport, man. It's part of the experience and part and parcel of competing against another person.
There you go. And we're only human.
Well, as you say, McGregor and Khabib are the only ones who currently have walked away off in the sunset, with that, with no, with a zero on their record and just wins. But again, we can look at, especially within boxing, and how fights are manicured to maintain a level of wins and opponents and stuff. Like it's not, it's, I congratulate Money Mayweather for doing his thing, but he didn't fight the best people at the best times. Just like Khabib didn't, just like many fighters, especially within boxing.
Yeah, so I believe you meant to say Mayweather in it. You said McGregor by accident earlier.
Oh, apologies. Yeah,
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 because
yeah.
I know McGregor's lost, so I just cleaned that up. But yeah, you're right. In boxing, you've got Joe Kawasaki, but again, timing. He fought Bernard Hopkins too late. Even though Hopkins went on to do great stuff, it was a very close fight. He fought Roy Jones Jr. too late. In his prime, he didn't fight none of the top mans in their prime. He didn't fight Eubank in his prime. He
Mm,
didn't fight James Toney in his prime. He didn't fight none of these men in their prime. but he went on to retire undefeated. But to retire undefeated, you do have to be strategic in when you fight people. And Mayweather was very strategic. He was definitely an all-time great, and he did fight a lot of champions, but he was strategic in the fights he took and when he took them in the latter part of his career. Because you got to give him credit for what he did up until that point. But as he got older and his hands started to get
Brittle.
fragile, but he still fought some killers because he fought Miguel Cotto, he fought Marcus Maidana, he fought Pacquiao, who was at the time, okay, he was coming off a knockout, but Pacquiao's Pacquiao.
Yeah. He's the man still.
So, but Mayweather knew when to take these fights. Like, he didn't fight no straight. Okay, you got to give him credit for Ricky Hatton. At the time, Ricky Hatton looked like a killer.
Yeah, man.
Myman jumped in with him and dealt with, knocked him out. So there's arguments for and against with all these guys.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? But I just feel like AJ, talented brother, knows what he's doing, but you're not what you were sold as. So I'm saying you just wasn't that.
And it's tricky balancing a public persona versus your real personality. So my tip would be, if you are going to have a public persona, make it as closer to who you are as a person, so you can easily switch between the two. And being someone totally separate is like, it's tricky, man, and psychologically that can do some very terrible things, man, long term.
100%.
Give thanks.
100%. It's a it's a it's a tricky one because AJ, he was Britain's darling, and like I said, I've said this before. Being Britain's darling comes with a lot of downsides, man.
Mm-hmm.
You have to look at Frank Bruno.
Oh,
You gotta be Britain's darling. If you take up that mantle of being Britain's darling, you have to be Britain's darling.
mm-hmm.
You gotta be able to sell Heinz baked beans and
HP
brown
sauce.
sauce. Yeah, you got to be able to do that shit. If you switch from that, then you become a monster. And that's why I compared Bruno, with all due respect, to the guy who's the actor who played in the Green Mile.
Oh,
The character that he played. I compare Bruno to that because if you watch that film, you look at this massive unit of a man who was soft on the inside.
Yeah.
And that is what, from a black man, they only want you to show strength during sports. And I'm not trying to make this thing racial, but
you gotta talk the facts.
Now be outside the ring.
Mm.
They don't want that. They want you to be the kind of, all right. I've gave this example before. You remember that film where a guy would, I think he had like a dog collar and he'd put it on Jet Li.
Okay, yeah.
And then, like, when he put it on, he'd say, yo, kill everything over there. And my man would just turn into a savage with that collar. That's what black heavyweight champions in Britain are meant. That's what the Britain want from you. Outside of the ring, don't show none of that. But inside of the ring, we want you to take man's head off.
It goes
but when you get outside of the ring,
switch it off. That switch needs to be switched off totally until we want it. It goes back to buck fighting. Back when our our ancestors had to do that madness. Like, this is, unfortunately, this is part and parcel of prize fighting and combat sport, that we do get these interesting elements of these racial connotations in there, but it's an interesting landscape in regards to the boxing scene at the moment, and just combat sports in general.
This is what I'm saying. So when you have a man like AJ, that's what's wanted of you. Once you start showing flaws and and things like that, flaws from outside the ring. They don't want to see that.
And then you're not seen as that athlete anymore.